Look at that third paragraph. It says the text explains that the Holy Spirit is the answer to all the problems you have made. So this is kind of reflecting back to this lesson we're doing. I would step back and let him lead the way, or any of these ideas about today I will judge nothing that occurs because we're asking him to help us. It says it explains that the Holy Spirit is the answer to all the problems you have made. These problems, it says, are not real. Okay? But, look what it says, but that's meaningless to those who believe in the problems. Remember when your kids were going through challenges, or a young person was going through a challenge, that they just made a mountain out of a molehill, right? Biggest thing that ever happened in their life. Maybe it was something that happened in high school or whatever. Remember how those things were so dramatic. And you know that this too shall pass. Well, that's what's happening right now. We look at our lives, we look at the things, and we go, oh, this is so terrible, just like you said, Mark. You know, I'm going to get through this. My goal is, do I face this with peace, or do I face this with fear? You know, what do I face it with? It says, even if your problems are not real, and the Course says, you know, nothing real can be threatened, this world and all of the things that we think, all the judgments, they're not real. But that doesn't help if you believe in them. So even though they're not real, but that's meaningless if you believe in them. And everyone believes in what he's made, for it was made by his believing in it. So all of the experiences we're going through, all of the relationship challenges we are going through, even though we say nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists, herein lies the peace of God, you believe in your problems and you're sitting in them, and so they're real to you. So denying them isn't the way to go, and clutching your problems isn't the way to go. Remember the lesson we did last week? I will step back and let him lead the way. It says there's two ways to walk through this world. We either cherish everything about this world and think this world is all there is, or we deny the world and think that it is nothing. And it says both of them are two sides of the same coin. They do not bring you peace. They do not bring you a solution. We have to walk a path between the two, it says. And that is the way that is open for you now. And that is the way where we do what Mark said. I'm going to step back, even though it looks like this is the wrong thing to do. I am going to step back and let him lead the way. I'm going to be honest, and I am going to look at these circumstances and situations and say, I'm unable to do this. And your boss could either get mad at you or say, hey, you got a little bit more time. Most people are pretty good about it when you come to them and honestly express it. Now, that does not mean that you're always going to have the understanding boss Mark has. That's not always going to happen. And Mark has had some non-understanding bosses in his career, because I have been with Mark in his career, and I've seen some ununderstanding bosses. But what's the difference is that he's found peace even in the midst of that. And so that's what this is saying. Okay, everyone believes in what he's made, for it was made by his believing into it, in it. So into this strange and paradoxical situation, one without meaning and devoid of sense, yet out of which no way seems possible. Okay, that's where we find ourselves, by the way. Did you see what it told us we were? We were in a meaningless, we were in a paradoxical situation that has no meaning and is devoid of any sense. So that's where we live, in a senseless situation. God has sent his judgment to answer yours. And gently, his judgment, and this is God's judgment, this is what the Holy Spirit is in our minds, substitutes for yours. And through this substitution is the ununderstandable, meaning how can we find understanding in a world that is an illusion, is made understandable. How is peace possible in the world? In your judgment, it is not possible and can never be possible. But in the judgment of God, what is reflected here is only peace, because he is not confused by the world. We're confused. When we're told facts, we'll go, oh, that makes sense. And then somebody will tell you something else and you go, oh, yeah, you know, that one makes sense too. And then somebody will tell you something else that contradicts that. Oh, yeah, I like that one too. Have you ever been there? There and there and there and there. You're in all these different places with all these different views. And what this is saying is his view is consistency. In the midst, we don't have to jump back and forth. We don't have to be on these people's side and then those people's side and then that person's side and then that organization's side or that country's side. We can find peace even in what seems like so many different sides. I was saying that last week for the past couple of weeks. I said, what's the job of the Dalai Lama? His job is simply to hold peace, right? So in the midst of all the chaos, even in our lives, our job is to do that. And how do we do that? Well, we do that with the help of the Holy Spirit. That's why it's so important to remember when we're in these circumstances and situations, we need to look clearly and then step back and let him lead the way. We cannot do it on our own. We do need that help, but we also need to have the knowledge that his judgment is always reflecting peace. His judgment is always reflecting love. His judgment is always reflecting healing. So we kind of know when we're following that judgment. Are we at peace? Are we seeing only extensions of love or calls for love in circumstances and situations? Then we can kind of begin to be clear that we are following that judgment. And then peace does reign.